is this the last of what I think anyone would point out? Like, you don't have to like the Warriors. There's a lot of things that are annoying about the Warriors. Can we just be honest? Like, their fans are super annoying. You were terrible. I love these, lifelong Warriors fan. Like, no, you're not. Would you stop? They were just a team forever. They were a team. They were like, oh, yeah, they're a team. I mean, even the name didn't make any sense. Golden State, where are they actually located? Like in Oakland. Why are they the Oakland Warriors? Because nobody ever wants to claim Oakland. Is tonight and the last night we see the Warriors. If they lose, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the pod. If they lose, why would you bring back Draymond? It's going to cost you too much, and it's a declining asset. I think you have to figure out, is there anybody who wants to take Jordan Poole off your hands? And Klay Thompson, though he's still a year out, Klay's let it be known he very much wants a contract extension, and he wants the max money. He wants the most money he could possibly get. And if you're winning championships, by all means, write the check to Draymond, write the check to Klay Thompson, write the check to Steph Curry, figure out a way. That's why even with Jordan Poole last year, he hadn't been consistent. He put up a lot of points and doesn't play much defense. Yeah, but we just won a championship. Okay, fine, we can make it work. You lose in the second round to an old Lakers team, where you get lit up by Lonnie Walker, who was out of the rotation. And suddenly now change is on the horizon. That's how big tonight's game is. I think if they lose in game 7, it's different than if you lose in game 5. You lose in game 6, right? We saw the Lakers get a couple calls down the stretch. You lose in game 5, this thing is over. And it's weird because teams are like bands. Right? There was just when they first won a championship, they were the first of their kind. We hadn't seen, small ball had not won a championship before. They weren't the first to go small. We'd seen Ricky Pierce did it back Milwaukee Bucks. Byron knows this. When we were kids, the Milwaukee Bucks were the first team to play kind of small ball with Don Nelson. That happened before. And then Don Nelson used it in Dallas. That's what changed Steve Nash's career. And then, again, a different kind of small ball when he was in Phoenix. We'd seen other teams go small. We hadn't seen a team use their, a converted kind of hybrid forward at center and win a championship, what we thought was mainly shooting threes. Now, there was a lot more to it then than there is now, right? They were actually the best defensive team in the league. And they had a really, really deep roster when they went strength in numbers. But that was their first album, if you were. Right? It was 40 years in the making, to Dan's point. This one does feel like their last tour. Right? Like Guns N' Roses last summer getting Axl Rose. Is Axl going to show up? And is he going to want to get along? Or is he going to do the Axl Rose thing at the end of every song and make it about him? That's kind of what it is with Draymond, right? Last series, Draymond, he's competitive. He's a WWE character. He's MFing the crowd. He's getting suspended. He's grabbing his junk. He's doing everything he can. This one, he's just it's pretty obvious he wants people in LA, specifically number 23 in LA, to like him. I think the Warriors win tonight. But man, a loss tonight feels like the last tour, the last album, just kind of thrown together. Right? You're what were they doing here? What were they thinking? I don't know. We just tried to collect some money and make another tour, make another thing out of it. And end of the day, you all end up annoying each other anyway. I guess the question would be, who's the Yoko? Let's bring in Ryan Hollins. Ryan, favorite band group of all time?
I think I'm of no good to you guys. I don't think I have a band or group
or singer
that just
rapper.
Let's go Jay-Z.
Artist.
There we go.
Who? Jay-Z?
We'll go Jay-Z.
Did Jay-Z get better over time or worse over time?
Oh yeah, he's like fine wine. He got better.
All right, it's just kind of a point of our discussion. Are the Warriors done?
No, I don't think. anybody with sense, and Doug, you know, I've played the game. You've been around it for a while. That you can count out world champs. Obviously, things have been going perfect. You would assume, you know, up in the Bay, they're going to get a win. And then the challenge is, do the Lakers win and take care of business at home? So I don't think they're done. I don't think that would be fair to say. And you got to assume, obviously, on every single championship run, I think what's different about the Lakers right now is that Lonnie Walker has 15 points, but you can't assume that. So you're saying who's going to be the next Lonnie Walker, who's the next Kevon Looney, JaMychal Green in this series that steps up and makes a play, because the Lakers are throwing the house at Steph Curry, okay? And you heard Draymond say it. He's right. They kind of figured out LeBron and AD, or at least kind of contain those guys. But what they didn't factor in was Lonnie Walker going off and being Lonnie Walker. You know, he literally hadn't played. And, Doug, I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like Steve Kerr got Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr's normally the guy we're applauding to say, you know, he made this big adjustment and went in and just played his guys that stayed ready, and that's kind of like the Warrior way. And I think Darvin Ham is not getting enough credit for that game.
I would say this about Steve Kerr. I was disappointed. You know, the zone worked in game one, and Steph was getting cooked in game four. And I understand that at the end of the day, the zone becomes a man at the end of shot clock anyway. I get that. But I was surprised, didn't see it. It was almost like they were so busy trying to figure out their rotation and their offensive strategy that they forgot, hey, we got to figure out our defense. And you had a big lead, you gave it away, and then they let Steph get cooked in that fourth quarter. Most of Lonnie's points and LeBron getting to the free throw line were against Steph.
There was nothing in that game plan, Doug, for Lonnie Walker. You had something for D'Angelo Russell. You had something for literally everybody else. And hats off to Lonnie Walker. I can't think of too many performances like it. A guy that just had been completely cut out the rotation. We know he's a baller. He had great moments over there in San Antonio, but just stepped up in a quarter like that. I mean, locked and loaded. Maybe a shot or two. I mean, 15 in the fourth. That's honestly that's ridiculous. I'm sure Lonnie's going down in Laker history if they end up winning the championship for that one. But I think Steph was definitely getting cooked. He was finding him. But it was like, is he going to keep doing it? He kept getting the dare shots where you dared him, and he beat you.
You know what? The other part that I will give, I'll give Darvin Ham credit for, and this is a frustration. And I totally understand that NBA guys, they have time-tested theories and thoughts, but most, and again, you played in this league for a long time, and now covering it obviously with the Rockets. Most guys, end of fourth quarter, would go back to their rotation. Right? Instead, it doesn't matter if you have a hot hand, like end of fourth quarter, 4 or 5 minutes to go. I'm going back to my starters. I'm going back to my dudes. He didn't. He stuck with Lonnie Walker and got rewarded for it.
He did. And, you know, normally it would have been D'Angelo Russell on the floor or, you know, Austin Reeves. He'd have just kind of went back with his guys. And you're correct. Hey, Vanderbilt was hot. He was the star of game one. And he kind of fizzled out with all due respect and, you know, hadn't been able to get a shot to go, and he went with Lonnie Walker. So more notably, you've seen that happen. And those guys who had the hot hand, you know, Doug, we're at home screaming at our TV and going, man, he should have played more. He was hot. He only missed one shot, put him in. But hats off to Darvin Ham. He did see it. There's no question in my mind that he was willing to make the tough calls. I saw Darvin earlier this season when he played in Houston, and I just went to him and said, man, you're doing the right thing. Keep it up, man. You know, stay unapologetic, keep coaching these guys, and you see it paying off. I don't think he's getting the respect that to do, and unfortunately a lot of LeBron's coaches pretty much don't, Doug.
They do not. Ryan Hollins joined us on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. How do you explain what felt like a no-show emotionally from the Celtics last night?
That caught me so far off guard. Doug, it was the biggest win in the Embiid-Harden era. This was a no-brainer. This was, hey, Boston all the way. They're going to go, and that's just kind of a part of the series. So I was absolutely shocked. And I think this is the challenge, the scrutiny that Joe Mazzulla is coming in. So this is a chess match behind the scenes. Joe Mazzulla wants their defense to turn into offense, which he's done a great job of. Then he wants the drive and kick game, because now what you can't do is focus on Jason Tatum. But what's happening is they don't know how to execute. They had no pace to the game, and Embiid and Harden just played how they wanted to play. And when you go on the road, when I played in the playoffs, you go on the road and you get a big win, you got to play at your pace. You cannot let the crowd get involved. But I had just never seen Boston struggle to score, and that's saying, hey, maybe, Joe, is your offense too free-flowing? With all due respect, I haven't coached one day in the NBA, but he's going to have to go and say, hey, man, if you're going to lose, we're going to lose with Jason Tatum and Brown taking 20 shots apiece minimum. Okay, this ain't no more than free-flowing, every equal opportunity offense that you've been seeing.
Ryan Holland's our guest here on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. What do you make of DeAndre Ayton? This is 2 years in a row where there's obviously a disconnect, whether it's with his teammates or with the coaching staff, as he struggles in the playoffs.
I think people have to be realistic. DeAndre Ayton's a guy you can win with, but I don't think in today's era we play through the post. So DeAndre Ayton is really going to struggle without Chris Paul on the floor. And in this series, he may even struggle with Chris Paul on the floor, but he's athletic enough to get out and guard. I just think we're not putting enough respect on Nikola Jokic's name. Hey, man, he had to make me a believer. But guess what, Doug? I'm a believer. As ignorant as I may sound, man, he's absolutely box office, and he's going to town. He's a matchup nightmare. You can't guard him. If you put your little guys on him, he rolls them to the post. If you double-team him, he passes. And now I think, Doug, we've all had this kind of criticism of, okay, Jokic, are you going to be aggressive? Are you going to do it in the biggest moments? And you got Booker on the floor. You got Kevin Durant. You had Chris Paul. And Jokic has been the biggest star in this series. And obviously, under Mike Malone, a coach that I played for, they came out and they just were tougher, dude. They were tougher. But DeAndre Ayton, I'm not going to put the blame on him, because I'm not expecting Ayton to be a guy that's playmaking or scoring or getting shots. Right now, he's a lob threat. He's a great finisher, and he's a versatile defender. But Jokic is on some other stuff, Doug.
What do you make of the second year? We talk about Ayton the second year in a row. I mean, you watch the Knicks and Jalen Brunson. He wasn't great in game one, but he's been really good ever since. The difference in the Knicks in the regular season and the postseason does kind of come down to one guy, doesn't it? And, now he's making comments about maybe they just wanted it more. Help me out. What's going on with Julius Randle?
Still figuring out how to be a star. I think there's frustration setting in. They're playing against kind of their mirror matchup, and you're not going to out-tough the Heat, playing for Tibbs, and I've competed against Tibbs. They're tougher. They do all the little things. That's when New York wins. It's a tough matchup. But I think it's clearly frustration setting in. And when you're sitting there, for that post-game interview, which I've done before, reporters are just asking all kind of I don't want to say dumb questions. That would be silly. But they're just asking questions to kind of provoke you. And he's like, okay, is this what you guys want to hear? They're tougher than us. Okay, we got out-rebounded. That's what happened in the game. And Doug, you both know what New York media is bringing to the table. So it was just frustration from Julius Randle, but this is going to be a tough series for him. And Doug, I'm good. Newsflash: the Miami Heat.
Wait, hold on. You had a take you wanted shared on national radio, and we got a bad cell phone moment so go back. Newsflash, what?
Newsflash: nobody wants to see the Miami Heat in the playoffs because they are physical, they grab, they hold, they're tough, and on any given night, Jimmy Butler can turn into Michael Jordan. So this is the team that you don't want to play against. And I'm sorry, they slow things down. Kyle Lowry's grabbing and all, you don't want to play against the Miami Heat. So I think it's another team we're not giving credit to, and deservedly so. Remember, they lost their first game in the play-in. They lost the first play-in game. They were getting ready to pack up and go to Cancun, and Jimmy Butler decided he had other plans.
Crazy stuff. Ryan, great catching up with you. Thanks so much for joining us. You always provide awesome perspective and insight that only a former player and a guy who's broadcasting for the Rockets can do. Appreciate you being our guest on Fox Sports Radio.